Hey everyone, just want to show you a project that I've been poking at for a while now. It's roughly a Speed Champion scale um, pop-up camper. It's modeled after the camper that we have, which is about 12 feet by 8 feet, I believe. So it's roughly the same scale. So the whole thing, right now, the top raises manually, and then you just slide these down to hold it up in place. And then it works better if I look at it instead of at the camera screen. Okay, so then there's the top raised, and then you can pull out the door and slide out the beds. And I'll take the top off of this in a moment. And slide out the pull-out. Whoops, not like that. Slide out the pull-out. And then I have a bunch of parts, like these are the support things on the bottom. I pulled them off here just to make it easier, but normally they would be there and stowed for travel, and then you would pull it down and it stabilizes it to keep it from rolling away. And also on the hitch in the front, there's a pull-up wheel. Anyway, yeah, and then there's on each of the pull-outs, there's a loop that you can put in place that would normally hold up the fabric, and then there's supports that go in there for supporting the fabric too. Like it would go like that, and then there's ones for the ends of this also. Anyway, so the basic deal with this, I'm just going to pull these off so I can show them there while I'm talking. So this one, the top has to be raised manually, and here you can see the inside of it, how the slide outs stop there. In the real one, there's a kitchen thingy that comes up here, and then this has the dinette in it, and then all of this slides in on itself, and you can store all of these pieces in here, no problem. And then you lower the top. But one of the things that this doesn't do, that the full-size one that I built, I have a 1/12 scale one, which is about 2 feet by 3 feet. It's all made out of Technic. One of the things that one does is that there's an actual crank on it that should raise the top, but I'm using telescoping Technic beams, and they really can't support the weight. So you have to lift the top off, turn the crank, and then you can set the top back on it and then pull out the beds and all of that fun stuff. But one of the things I was working on is a mechanism for this little one to raise and lower the top, because it has to move shorter, and you don't need to have it telescoping, because one of these is the right amount of height for the top. So I'll show you here. Can you tell I did not script this? There, just put one of these on there. Okay, so you can see there that it needs to raise up that, which is about, I think, three blocks. So you can see there, that raises the same amount. Let's park you over there. So I came up with this mechanism. I ignore all of this. This is just to give it a nice amount of cranking turns to raise it. But what it boils down to is this pivots on this point here and this point here. And then the act of raising it and the weight of the top snaps it into place right there. So it wants to go one of those two directions. So like there, it's slightly past the highest point, so it locks into place. And I really like the way that works. The only problem is that that's, you know, two studs thick, which is a lot when you're talking about this tiny scale. But anyway, so that's one of the mechanisms. And then I kind of went from there and was like, well, how small can I make that using a different mechanism? So I came up with this, which raises the same amount, has a nice amount of throw on it. It's the same height here. And if you notice, these do go down, but that's how it is on this one also, which I'm kind of accepting that as a, you know, it's just the way it has to be. And the real trailer obviously all of this is telescoping and it fits inside of these panels here. But for this, it kind of has to be external or internal. One thing it could do is, instead of having these rods, which basically keep it level, have these pivots, in which case it can fold up into that space. But I don't think that that's going to happen within the space, because I do still want it to be able to have the beds slide out and be full. I don't want it to be, you know, you take the beds from somewhere else and you put it in. I want it to be fully self-contained in that space. So this is the other one that I came up with, and I like the feel of this. It uses a lot of extra space on the inside. Let's just remove these so you can see it a little better. So, I mean, there's an extra one of these in here just to fill up the space, but it really only, actually this one's not really connected to anything. I could have just used a spacer there, but I didn't. I want to grip onto that. So yeah, a lot of what's in here, so it's this 14 tooth gear to this guy, to a small one, to another big one, to try to work that gear ratio down. But you can see that it raises it up nice. It's, if you ignore these shooting through, it fits. It's like all self-contained and stuff. But so yeah, I'm about to kind of tear these apart to try to come up with a way to make this a little nicer so it'll fit in there, because I'm starting to realize that the vertical parts and the raising mechanism are totally separate from each other. You can have one without the other. Actually, here, let me pull this off so it's maybe easier to see what's going on. There we go. So yeah. And I came up with a version of this that had these supports inside this corner piece here. So rather than it sticking out by one, it's still contained within the box of the camper itself. But these would sit, you know, like in that space right there. Right in the space of that set. So figure this, but you know, one in, which would be great. And then there is a little bit of space here. I mean, we have the pull out there, so you lose kind of that space there. But I could also make a version of this that isn't accurate to our actual camper, that doesn't have the side pull out, which I might do, and then just have two of these this size and have the crank, like you pull these out and then you crank it, and then I can have space in the center to actually lift up using something like this, where when it's closed up like this, the support that actually lifts the top will come through this space here. I don't know. I'm all kind of figuring it out still. Anyway, sort of a work in progress. This is the kind of stuff I love figuring out. Yeah, so you can see these aren't connected to anything. That's it for now. Have a good day, everyone.